Title: Silent Screams. As the cold morning wind filtered through the trees, Adam, who lived in a mossy cabin deep in the forest, awoke. Every morning he was awakened by the same sounds: birdsong, the distant sound of a stream, and sometimes a deep, unexplained murmur. Years ago, Adam had fled the city. After losing his wife and daughter in a car accident, he was drowned in the crowds, his screams unheard. Taking refuge in the forest was his only escape. There's no one here, he'd tell himself, and no one can hurt them. But that morning was different. He found something on his doorstep, an old child's boot. It was still covered in mud, as if it had fallen in minutes ago. Adam's heart began to race. No one had visited this part of the forest for years. At that moment, he heard a rustling in the trees. It was as if someone were watching him. As the days passed, he found more and more items: a red toy car, a torn hairpin, a small notebook stained with dried blood. Written on the notebook's pages was only a single sentence: "Find me, Dad." Adam began to hear the voice of the daughter he had lost years ago in his ears. Her laughter, her songs, even her cries echoed through the forest. He thought he was going crazy, but his instincts told him something was wrong. One night, he wandered deep into the forest with a flashlight. The moonlight was dim. The wind was shaking the tree branches relentlessly. His heart clenched with each step. Finally, he spotted an old teddy bear beside a small pond. On it was a written note: "You won't be able to leave this place until you find the right path." Adam fell to his knees, his tears mixed with the rain. In that moment, he realized that the forest wasn't just a refuge, it was the shadow of his past, a maze from which he couldn't escape. And an end awaited him. Silent Screams, Part 2. Adam knelt beside the pond, his fingers clutching the note in his hand. "You won't be able to leave this place until you find the right path." The weight of that sentence was like a knife thrust into his chest. The forest was silent, too silent. There was no birdsong, no rustle of the wind. Only Adam's heartbeat and deep breathing echoed. He decided to move forward into the darkness. Every step dragged him to an unknown place. That night, he realized how unfamiliar this forest, where he had lived for years, truly was. The trees looked the same, but the paths had changed. As if the forest were a living thing, it followed Adam's steps, drawing him somewhere else. After a while, an old forest cabin appeared before him. Its door was ajar, a faint light seeping in. Adam approached, trembling, and when he pushed open the door and entered, the interior smelled of dust. And there, he found letters written in his daughter's small handwriting. Each one bore the same sentence: "Dad, why did you leave me?" Adam's knees buckled. The guilt he'd suppressed for years stabbed at his heart. That night, he'd left his daughter alone in the car, gone only a few minutes. "A few minutes," he whispered, "just a few minutes." A voice echoed inside the cabin, a thin, familiar child's laughter. Then a whisper: "If you don't find me, you'll never get out of here." Silent Screams, Part 3. With the first light of dawn, Adam plunged back into the depths of the forest. He was lost. Time had vanished. Day and night had blended. He seemed to see his daughter's shadow in every corner. One night, at the edge of the pond, he heard that voice again. "Dad, let's go home." Adam looked into the pond with trembling hands. He saw his daughter's face in the reflection of the water, a smiling, innocent yet tearful child. He took one step, then another. The deep water drew him in with its cold arms. The murmur of the forest rose again. The wind wept. The branches screamed. After that, nothing happened. In the morning, the forest was silent again. The hut door was open, and an old clock sat on the table. It had stopped at exactly 3:17. At the edge of the pond, there were Adam's tracks, footsteps leading towards the water. The forest held another secret. Silent Screams, Chapter 4. The forest had swallowed Adam. Days passed, weeks, no one knew. Those who thought he had sunk to the bottom of the pond were mistaken, for Adam was actually still walking in the depths of the forest. Sometimes his daughter's laughter echoed through the darkness. Sometimes he heard his mother's old lullaby. Each sound drew him a little deeper, testing the limits of his mind. One day, he stopped beneath a massive oak tree in the heart of the forest, one that hid even the sky. On the tree's bark were inscribed in fine lines, "Those who remain here cannot leave without confronting their past." At the base of the tree, he found a small chest. Inside, a red hair clip belonging to his daughter and a cassette tape were found. On the cassette, written in shaky letters, "Remember that night." When Adam picked up the cassette, a buzzing sound rose in his ears. For a moment, everything went dark, and he was transported back to that night. Raindrops pounding on the car window, his daughter's face, asleep in the back seat, and her getting out of the car to retrieve the phone. The voice from inside the tape devastated him. "Dad, why did you leave?" Adam knelt on the ground. The forest branches, draped over the sky, creaked as if judging him. At that moment, the ground trembled, and the shadows of the trees began to move. Silent Screams, Part 5. Suddenly, the forest transformed into a completely different place. The sky turned gray, the air grew heavy. Adam looked around. Everything was the same yet different, as if the forest belonged to another time. Up ahead, he saw the silhouette of a child in a red dress, walking away with small steps. "Stop!" Adam shouted, his voice trembling with despair. The girl ran deeper into the forest without looking back. Adam followed, thorns cutting his knees, his breath coming in gasps, but he didn't stop. Finally, he returned to the edge of the pond. His daughter's silhouette stood there, silently gazing at him. "Dad," a thin voice said, "you had to leave me." Adam took a step forward. Tears welled up in his eyes. "No," he said, trembling. I couldn't protect you." The girl smiled, her eyes filled with tears. "Find your peace now, Dad. It's time to go." A light emanating from the surface of the pond illuminated the forest. Adam took another step, walking into the light, and the forest fell silent again. Silent Screams. The end. The next morning, a few hunters came to the forest and found Adam's old coat at the edge of the pond. In its inner pocket was a letter. "Forgive me. You are not alone anymore." From that day on, the hut remained silent. But some nights, the laughter of a father and daughter echoed amidst the howling wind. The forest continued to hold its secrets. Silent Screams, Chapter 6. The heart of the forest no longer belonged to Adam. The only thing he remembered after stepping into the pond was the icy water against his skin and the faint sound of laughter echoing in his ears. When he opened his eyes, he saw he was in the same forest, but something was different. The sky was red. Trees had fallen, branches dripping to the ground like drops of blood. The forest was alive and watching Adam. He heard a voice in the distance. "Father, you still haven't found me." Adam looked around, trembling. "Where are you?" he cried, his voice echoing, but there was no answer. As he walked along a path, something caught his eye. A small wooden door stood alone in the middle of the ground. An old padlock hung on it, but there was no key. An inscription carved into the tree next to the door caught his attention. The past doesn't stay closed. The moment Adam touched the doorknob, a roar rose in his ears and his mind went blank. Images from that night flashed before his eyes. The screech of brakes, screams, broken glass, then silence. Silent Screams, Chapter 7. Suddenly, he found himself in a city. The forest had vanished, replaced by sidewalks glistening in the rain and people rushing about. It was the street of years ago. The moment he held his daughter's hand, the place where he had smiled for the last time, the moment just before that unfortunate accident. Adam saw his little daughter among the crowd. She was running across the sidewalk in her red dress. Then he heard the screech of brakes, which stabbed him to the heart. This time, he ran, screaming, "Stop, please!" But the scene remained unchanged. The crash echoed once more. Blood, asphalt, and then cold silence. Adam fell to his knees, his hands trembling. At that moment, a voice whispered, closer than ever, "You can't leave this place without accepting the truth." Silent Screams, Chapter 8. It was the middle of the night when he returned to the forest. The pond cast a red reflection in the moonlight. Adam understood now. The forest was his hell. Guilt, regret, and loss all embodied here. His daughter's silhouette appeared before him again. This time, her eyes were filled with sorrow. Girl: "Dad, I never blamed you, but if you don't forgive yourself, you can't leave this place." Adam's tears flowed. He fell to his knees, raising his hands to the sky. "Forgive me," he whispered, "please." At that moment, the forest fell silent. A white light emanating from the surface of the pond fell upon Adam. As the light enveloped everything, his daughter's voice echoed once more. "Find peace now, Dad." Silent Screams, Chapter 9. When the morning sun illuminated the forest, the cabin was empty. There were no traces of Adam's footprints at the edge of the pond, only his old coat and a red hair clip. The forest was still quiet, but at night, as the wind swirled through the branches, the laughter of a father and daughter continued to echo from the depths of the forest. Silent Screams, Chapter 10. As the light rising from the surface of the pond began to slowly fade, Adam opened his eyes again. But this time, everything was different. The forest was still the forest, but darker, colder. The trunks of the trees cracked, their branches blocking the sky. The wind howled like muffled screams. He took a step. The earth was like mud, as if trying to pull him back with each step. Girl, from a distance, like an echo. "Dad, why are you still here?" Adam shivered. The voice was no longer innocent, but accusatory. He looked around but saw nothing, only emptiness. When he reached the pond's edge, the water had changed color. It was pitch black, emitting a deep murmur as bubbles rose from it. Adam looked at his reflection and saw not his own face, but a shattered silhouette. Voice, dark, muffled. "You will stay here forever." Adam tried to retreat, but his feet wouldn't move. The pond was slowly sucking him in. A scream escaped his throat, but the sound vanished before it could echo through the forest walls. Silent Screams, Chapter 11. Days passed, or so it felt. There was no Adam in the forest anymore, only shadows. In the hut, time stood still. The old clock still read 3:17. His daughter's hair clip lay on the table, and beside it, Adam's old letter. The villagers in the area began to say that the forest was more frightening at night. They claimed to have seen a mysterious figure wandering the pond. Old villager: "The forest took him. Some souls don't leave without finding forgiveness." Silent Screams, the end. One night, with moonlight filtering through the trees, a voice was heard from deep within the forest. A thin, pained whisper. "Find me, Father." And the forest continued to hide Adam's endless cries. Silent Screams, finale. The darkness of the pond had swallowed Adam. The forest fell silent after its nights of murmuring. One morning, as the first light illuminated the depths of the forest, the surface of the pond calmed. Not a murmur remained, not an echo. It was as if the forest had completely absorbed Adam's presence. Only one note lay on the table in the hut. Written in shaky handwriting on dry, cracked paper was a single sentence. "Now I have found peace, but the forest will never be silent." Even years later, the villagers would not approach the forest. At night, a soft child's laughter rose from the pond, echoing on the wind. Some said it was just a dream, while others believed the forest still held Adam and his daughter within. But one thing was certain: the forest would not easily give up its secrets. It darkens.